Hey guys, Spirit of the Lie here. With lots of bonuses and units coming in the new Indian DLC, it's hard to know where to start, but something I thought might be helpful is to go through the unique units, and give a sense of what you can expect from them and in what situations they'll thrive. This mini-series is going to be a little shorter, and these are more quick takes and big picture rather than breaking down all the nitty-gritty as I usually like to do. For this video, we're going to be looking at the Shrivamsha Rider. They're a unique unit for the Gurjaras, which are a cavalry and camel civ, though as you may know from experience, because camels have no pierce armor, they generally don't hold up well against archers, or at least nowhere near as well as knights. Now, Gurjaras don't have access to the knight, and in fact none of the new Indian civs do, and are also missing the battle elephant. Altogether, that could leave them in a tough position against archer civs, having to go heavily into skirmishers or siege to deal with those, and pivot away from their strength, which is cavalry. I see the Shrivamsha Rider as a potential solution to that problem, giving you an option at the stable that you can fall back on to deal with at least a moderately sized group of archers. Glancing quickly at its stats, you'll see it's not super impressive. It has about half the HP of the knight line, less attack, and less armor, though it also comes with a much lower gold cost. In fact, its stats are much more in line with light cavalry, with essentially the same HP and attack, though with that additional gold cost. So how then is this supposed to be the answer to archers? Well, it all comes down to its special ability. The Shrivamsha Rider can actually dodge projectiles, or at least that's how it's worded in the description, though I think a better way to think of it is that it has a regenerating shield against ranged attacks. You can see here all of the initial shots against the Shrivamsha Rider are passing right through it, but depleting its charge bar. It refreshes that quite quickly, and in this case, against just one unit, it can almost keep up. Even once that charge bar is depleted, you can see it still manages to recharge while it's being attacked, and block every second or third shot. At least in this example, that means it actually outlives the knight, even though the knight has way better stats. Of course, this situation is when it'll look the best, as its regeneration is mostly keeping up with a single crossbowman. If we switch to more of a focus fire situation, then it's overwhelmed much more easily, and even on the first shot, damage was getting through. For that reason, against a large group of crossbows, I found pound for pound the knight seems to do a little better, so you'll want to leverage their cheaper cost and get a pretty large mass of them before actually trying to fight archers. A side effect of having more units also means more for your enemy to fire at, and should prevent too much of that focus firing on a particular rider, which will just help the whole group survive longer. I can definitely see situations where you could quickly ambush and overwhelm a small group of archers and not take any damage at all. To go a bit deeper into the mechanic, I was curious if it was damage or the number of projectiles that seemed to matter more. It turns out it's the number of attacks that matter, and here we have a trebuchet with 200 pierce damage taking off just a small fraction of the charge, and instead it's a large number of small attacks that get through it quickly. Considering it is supposed to be a dodge mechanic, I think that does actually make sense as the way to implement it. With a bit of playing around, I also found it's fully depleted when hit by 5 units simultaneously, which implies every projectile is reducing the charge by 20%. Something else I really didn't expect is that this also applies to ranged melee attacks. Units like Mamelukes, Onagers, and Bombard Cannons are all negated to varying degrees, with the Onager's first shot being completely ignored. Even worse, the poor Bombard Cannon here is completely unable to deal any damage, as its reload time is just too slow. This test in particular starts to make me wonder if this is too strong, but just to put it back into perspective, this is otherwise a pretty weak unit that is dominated by knights with equal resources, ending with around 40% of their HP left in this case, which is pretty one-sided considering the starting numbers advantage. It's also hard countered by pikes and camels, even with a resource advantage, so it's not that they can't be countered, you just don't want to do it with anything ranged. So that's a quick look at the Gurjara's unique stable unit. I do think it'll frustrate some players, especially how it can take an onager shot head-on, but it does address a pretty glaring weakness to archers in a creative way. That'll do it for this one though. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.